Yeah, let's get more reaction on all of the dramatic movements that's happening tonight. JJ Tabane, anchor of Power to Truth, joining us in studio for more on this one, Sally. So you and I have been talking about this behind the scenes.
I'm
JJ.
so glad you're here, JJ. What's going on?
That is the question. What's going on? Because the DA is basically taking control of possibly Johannesburg, but definitely Ekurhuleni.
Yeah, and Sally saying there, it's astonishing. Not quite astonishing. Remember, the ANC has lost elections at 46%. So it was always going to be an issue of whether or not they can find people who can still get them or help them, right? Despite what the voters have done, help them to remain in power, right? And in a sense, to get them out may well be what the voters have pronounced in great measure, by putting them under 50%. I know that the ANC won't like to hear that, because they will always say, oh, yes, we are 46, but we are still the biggest party. But if you are 46, you are under 6. If you are not the biggest, if all the others coalesce, you then become the minority, and then the minority, in terms of votes, become the majority. But that's the reality of our democracy, and that is what, in certain instances, is required for a wake-up call to happen. So, in Ukraine, that's happened. Mzoli Masina, I think, was a relatively if you like, active mayor who attended to things and so on. So it's a little bit of a blow for him, because remember in 2016 it was the only metro that the ANC was able to hang on to in Gauteng, even if it was by the thread of coalitions, right? So it's quite a sad thing. I did speak to him. He didn't sound too deflated, but he's a politician, so you know he could put up any face. And he said he will talk to us whenever we want, when he's ready. But he did confirm that the DA has taken Ekurhuleni. In Joburg, as you have seen, of course, Vasco da Gama taking it, that can be a sign that the DA will take everything, right? And my sources tell me that this is if you like, a coalition by stealth, with the EFF still manipulating things from behind the scenes, purely, right? And I know they may not like it themselves, but I couldn't care. Right, purely to snap the ANC, right? So put the DA in power and sort out you as the ANC, because the ANC were rude to them, according to my information, because they always come to a table and say, before you talk about petty things of water and potholes, can you tell me about land? Are you going to support the land thing? Remember, they are deadlocked in Parliament now. In fact, the ANC, according to the EFF, has derailed the land discussions, and they wanted to use that to say, as a lever of power. ANC refused. EFF is punishing them by voting the DA everywhere in the country.
I want to stay on Joburg. I mean, we've still got to speak about Tshwane, but if the DA gets the Joburg mayorship, that's METROPOLITAN. What's she like? No.
METROPOLITAN is an excellent candidate, right? I can tell you now, this is besides the fact that she's my home girl. Come on, say, forget that. But she is very bright. Right, and even Mashaba said so, to say that during his tenure, METROPOLITAN was one of those active MMCs who made sure that one of the things that we thought could never happen, 24-hour clinics in Joburg, actually happened. She comes from Alexander, so we hope that if she will prioritize that. In fact, she was telling me she's got a full plan for Alexander. In fact, she wanted to engage what we call alumnus of Alexander, or people who live, who were born in Alexander but are now holding various positions in different parts of the country, and say to them, you come back home, look at the slum you've left behind, you know. So that gives me slightly a little bit of hope, whether or not within the DA apparatus she will be allowed to thrive, right, as someone with her own kind of energy and mind and just a sense of cooperation. Is something still to be said. Take a look at this. She wrote a full commendation of the previous mayor of the ANC, Joladin Batong. Now that doesn't happen with opposition parties in the middle of an election, to praise somebody on the other side and say that was a good guy. When you could say, oh well, because she's already passed away, so it's not our competition. But that the point was, she was able to tell a story of how across party lines they were able to speak together. But I can tell you now, before I'm accused of praising her too much, that you could say the same about Mphomo Erani. You know, Mphomo Erani, you know, was somebody who was saying to me, I want the situation where even if I win as mayor, I'm able to identify people like METROPOLITAN who are capable to be part of my administration, to be MMC. I was astonished by that because it doesn't happen in the NC. They say, what?
I mean,
we're
that's the
give an opposition a job. When
that's the maturity that voters are waiting for, isn't it, Shahan?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I wish something like that could happen. And I hope the DA will allow Dr. Mpo, if she does get to be mayor, to see whether she can pick other people who are not DA to be part of the administration purely because they can do a better job of serving citizens. But I know how politics are. She's going to be drowned out. She tells me again that she believes that the DA will give her the space to appoint her team, because that's important. If you are mayor and you can't even appoint your own team, you can just forget it. So but that's all in a sphere of speculation, because remember, there's another scenario. It may be that if there's a background deal, the DA has been given speaker, and maybe they will give Action SA mayorship. So Mashaba could still be in the running. So I hope that will happen in the next 30 minutes, but we are hoping to cross over there at 8 o'clock.
We hope to get some clarity on this, right? But because there are backdoor deals and all of that happening, maybe the EFF's trying to spite the ANC. What does it do for coalition stability? Because we might end up like we had the mess in Nelson Mandela Bay, where we saw things being taken to court, challenges, walking, councils that never basically got down to the work. What does that mean for stability?
Well, it means the same thing that's meant the last 4 years. So get ready for more chaos, right? Once you have got more than 2 or 3 parties vying for control, you must expect chaos, because they are all vested interests. That's why there's been a lot of conversations about whether the DA and ANC shouldn't just put aside their difference and coalesce. And you have 2 parties, right? You don't have one party that can just wake up. Like in this case, I think Brakusta over there has a seat, 1 seat, and then he's been made MMC because maybe he threw his weight with whoever is going to be in charge. You see now, those kind of things, that same one party can switch sides, and all you need is that person who's absent, apparently, the councillor who was absent, to come to work. And then suddenly there's a motion of no confidence, and then they vote differently, you suddenly have a new mayor. So unfortunately, you are set for instability in a place like that, where there's a bit of a gap between those who are governing and those who are opposing, in such a way that these ones who are opposing cannot, by backdoor, remove the governing ones, even if they are a coalition. That's the kind of stability you need. Because also you don't want as a mayor to be looking over your shoulder. To be a leader includes part of making tough decisions that may not always please everyone in council. Otherwise, you must forget it. You know, you're going to go around in circles, and the people are going to suffer.
We are out of time, but I have to ask you, because this is a very important development. The EFF has got the mayorship in Metsimaholo. Is this going to be their first big test?
Yes. Because remember, there's one thing to talk up a talk about how you're going to govern better. It's another when now you are faced with the reality that instead of the 10 billion you thought as a budget, it's only 1 billion. And you must slice it accordingly. And when you slice it like that, it means that someone who is expecting water today may get it in 5 years. And you must go and explain that, because populism and big rallies come to an end where governance and reality starts. And I'm glad that the EFF is going to lead somewhere, and we can see whether that test case is something that we can live with, should by some miracle the EFF govern in 50 years. Whenever they believe they'll govern eventually. Maybe it may not be in our lifetime. But when they do govern, I can't answer how they will govern. But now with this municipality, in 2 years' time, I'll know that it's true that the EFF is not all just talk, but they can actually do something to improve the lives of the people.
Absolutely. JJ, we're going to hear more from you after 8 o'clock, and I'm sure there's going to be more developments this evening. I mean, it really is very busy and active, isn't it, Shahan?
Yeah, definitely.